Hey guys, Eli here from Games on Politics. Thanks for checking out the video. I've always been curious what the average collector, Pokemon collector, really looks like, what their age is, how many cards they collect, and I got into a discussion actually with someone a few weeks ago about how many people there even are that have a collection of, say, more than $10,000 of Pokemon cards. And I think it's a lot smaller than a lot of other people think. It's, when you're on an auction, you're bidding against people. How many other people, realistically, are you bidding against? Is it 1,000 people? Is it 10,000 people? What sort of scale are we talking about? So in that way, I decided to put together pretty much a census of the community. I've called it the Pokemon TCG 2022 Community Survey. I've linked it in the description below, and I'm sending it out to various other creators and communities to collect and get a database of what the collecting scene looks like today in 2022. I'm going to make the data set completely available for everyone else so that we can all get a sense of what our community looks like, what sort of content creators we watch, how big our collections, what the demographic data is of this community, how long ago did people get into it, do people collect mostly modern or vintage, etc. So I hope that you'll take it below. Once again, I'll make all this data public after, I don't know, I'll probably have it public for a week or two or so to give people time to answer questions, and then I'll release the data set for everyone, including and if you put your email in, I will email you the results of the survey when it's all done. Of course, I'm not going to share people's emails with each other. It's not for an email list. It's simply to track to make sure nobody takes the survey twice on accident, and to track to make sure there's no manipulation. Because one of the things I'd obviously be afraid about is someone filling out the survey a ton of different times to try to manipulate the market and say, oh, there's way more interest in modern or vintage or whatever. So in order to prevent duplicate results, I'm going to be keeping an eye if there are too many results, disproportionate that look the same, for example, or if some people are using similar emails to fill out the survey. But with that being said, let's take a look at the questions and why the survey looks the way it does. All right, so here we are. It's the community survey. You can see my Google Gmail there. And so let's run through this real quick. So first off, I have the definition off the bat. Vintage, modern, ultra-modern. Vintage is any set before EX Power Keepers. So this is the entire Wizard of the Coast plus the EX series through pretty much Gen 3, I think, if I'm counting right. This is pretty much the first almost 10 years of the Pokemon property. Then modern, I count as this kind of middle set from 2007 to 2016 up until Evolutions, which is kind of where the hobby had a surge again. And then ultra modern is anything from 2016 to present. So off the bat, as I said earlier, I'm asking for your email, not to put on a list or anything like that, but simply to make sure there are not duplicates, and also so I can email you the results at the end, the survey results. Then, how'd you find about the survey? I'm just curious, because I'm going to share this among several Discord groups, having several creators share it as well. It'll be interesting to see. Do you mainly play Pokemon TCG or collect? Of course, we want to know what our community looks like, especially with so many cards getting so much value off playability. I think we frequently underestimate how much of the hobby is players, so I think it's kind of interesting to look at. Obviously, how big are people's Pokemon collections? Mine right now falls into this category, 10 to 25,000, but it's kind of interesting to see the spread. And I think obviously if you have $1 million collection, your buying power is significantly larger. But if there are enough people at these smaller, lower levels, then it can of course outweigh the buying power of the top investors. What percent of your net worth is invested in Pokemon cards? I think it's a really interesting question. How many years have you been actively collecting? Did you come back in the hobby in 2016? Did you come back in the hobby during the pandemic? Have you been in the hobby for a long time before that? On average, how many cards do you buy each week and sell each week that are at least $5? So that's kind of, I don't know, a minimum level to buy a card individually. It doesn't include a pack. It's kind of interesting to see. And obviously, if it's a lot, then I think that changes the way I think about it, because I think that most people probably are not, unless they're a store buying shitloads of cards every week. What percent of your current collection do you plan to never sell? Obviously, this is like, what are those cards that you want for your lifetime? Like, what are the ones that have huge sentimental value? It also means what cards are off the market. If you have a collection of, I don't know, $100,000. Some people have quite large collections, and half of it you're not planning on ever selling, then that's actually a lot of cards that are off the market permanently. What percent of your current collection do you hope to sell over the next year? This is about turnover rate and churn. And same thing with this next question is, when do you think you'll actually sell more product than you bring in? If this is your retirement plan, if you're planning on a down payment for a house, this is really what we're looking at. And if you're just amassing a collection right now, it's kind of interesting to see, like, what is the purpose? Are you just going to keep this to pass on to your kids? Are you saving for, I don't know, another goal? So that's what this question's about. And then, of course, we want to figure out what people have in vintage, in modern, and ultra modern, which is what we're asking about here. Over the pandemic specifically, I think that a lot of collectors have gone into buying far more modern products to open up. This is just like a hypothesis of mine. So this is why I'm asking this question about the pandemic specifically. I'm curious because obviously the Pokemon company has had far more sales than usual. So I'm assuming people are spending more, but we don't know. What percent is Japanese? Over the next year, what proportion of your spending will be on Japanese? And over the pandemic specifically, what percent has been an ultra modern versus vintage? We covered that. Another question is, what percent of people have bought on a non-eBay auction house? That's one of these premier top tier ones, like Heritage, Golden, PWCC. I'm really curious. I think it's a lot less than the market, or at least in these Discord groups, make it seem. I think that's still the number one place to sell your cards is eBay. But I'm just really curious what percent of people have done that. Have you ever purchased Pokemon cards off social media platforms? I think that's just interesting question as well. What is the most you've spent on a single Pokemon card? And then there's a related question here. If you just purchased a Pokemon card you consider expensive, you don't do it frequently, but you wanted to splurge, what is an expensive card for you? And this is, if you're a millionaire, it's interesting if they think about, if they buy, how much money do they have to spend a card before they're like, ooh, that's a big purchase. I have to check with my spouse, before I buy this. And for me, I'm a student. For me, I've spent, I think I've bought 2 cards that are worth over $100, and each of those were like a big purchase for me because I don't have a job yet. I'm still a student until May anyway. So do you purchase at auctions or do you buy outright? Where have you personally graded cards? And then looking forward, what percent of product do you buy that you plan to be ultra modern? How much time do you spend on the Pokemon hobby? And then a related question, before COVID, how much do you spend on the Pokemon hobby? Because obviously the YouTube community has exploded and the number of people watching videos and engaging in Discord is far larger than ever was before. So it's interesting if this is just a lot of new people or whether the people that were in the hobby years ago are also just spending way more time on it. Have you ever attended a Pokemon TCG tournament? How much value of ultra-modern sealed product do you have in your collection? That's really interesting, these 2 questions about, do you have a closet full of, hidden fates stocked away? That's kind of what we want to know. Are there a lot of people who have all this product they're stockpiling for later? Now, obviously, I think there's an incentive for you to not disclose what you have to make it seem like this stuff is rarer than it is. But, it's better for everyone. It's better for you personally if you know what the market's like, if you know that other people are stockpiling a ton of this product. So it'd be better for everyone just knowing their own financial situation related to the market. Then, of course, how much additional money do you plan to spend? Key one about this question is you don't count what you've already put into the market. We're kind of counting additional investment because if you bought a card and then you sold it and you're just reinvesting that card into something new, that's not really additional money going into the market. How many booster boxes worth of Pokemon product do you anticipate? This is like, I don't know, as a set comes out, how much sealed product do you buy? Do you subscribe to a content creator's Patreon? Do you collect anything else? And then we have several demographic questions. How old are you? What's your net worth? What is your annual income? I think there's some disagreement. I asked both these questions because some people argue that one is not necessarily an indicator of another. You might own a house that's worth, I don't know, however much money, but that doesn't mean you have a ton of disposable income, even though your wealth is higher, and vice versa. You might not own a house, but you might be a young professional with a lot of income. And then just general demographic questions, want to figure out what the look where you located, diversity, how, education level, stuff like that. So yeah, I hope that is helpful for everyone. I hope that this is something where in the future we'll be able to reference this not just year over year to see how our hobby has grown and changed, but also in your own sort of collecting and investment decisions. I'll obviously also share the results in addition to by email and in Discord on this YouTube channel itself, and I'm going to do some analysis of the data, make that public as well. So please take the survey. The more data, the better. The more informed we're all going to be. Thanks so much for your time, and have a good night.